From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara McKay, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. This is a beautiful episode today with Tahlia Adams of the Solace practice. She's a newly graduated naturopath. And I know that a lot of people who listen to this podcast are either naturopaths or are student naturopaths. So if you're looking for some big expansion in that journey, listen to this episode. Before we get into it, I did just want to remind you that my book, Radically Self-Honoring, is out now and it's available to purchase via Amazon. This is a 300-ish page guidebook that's available both in Kindle and paperback that is essentially me distilling every single thing I've learned about women and how we operate over the last 8-ish years of working intimately with them as a mentor. I've taken my own information, but also patterns, the limiting behaviors, the viewpoints, and the tools that I know really heal those kind of very common issues. So things like lack of confidence, comparison, maybe leaning on victim mode instead of taking the reins of your life and moving forward, not knowing how to live in alignment with your own values, or maybe not knowing what they are because you've kind of been influenced by what everyone else thinks you should do or what you think you're expected to do. And if you're someone who resonates as maybe being a little bit on the outer, or maybe feeling funny about belonging, or kind of not really valuing fitting in, I think this book could really be very supportive. And even if you're someone who lives an incredibly value-aligned life, I've had a lot of conversations with people who've read the book who've said that it was just a very beautiful reminder for them and a way for them to capture little pieces that had fallen off over the years. So that is there for you and it's in the show notes. Tahlia, what can I say? What an absolute beautiful breath of fresh air. She works with highly sensitive people, women mainly, and she works with the sensitive souls, the people who've maybe had some issues in their health and healing journey and haven't felt seen or heard elsewhere. I really resonate with that. And she's looking at both the physical health and science aspects of naturopathy, but also the energetic aspects. And that is a rare thing in naturopathy. It's, not just seeing someone as a petri dish or a test result, but seeing all of the energetic components that are going on around them and how those energetics could be influencing their well-being and their results from what they're doing with a naturopath. She is such a gentle, grounded, and well-resourced force of nature. We talk a little bit about that in this episode, about how important it is to be well-resourced in business and coaching, and how it will allow you to not be reactive. And Tahlia was finishing her degree. She did everything I asked her to do in the container, and yet we still had space to have a laugh. And we had a lot of time to chat in our calls. And she's really an example of someone who's operating their business but understands how important it is to have those capacities, that cup full, that resourcing, so that you don't make business a massive drama, so that it's not wildly an emotional roller coaster. I think she probably resonates as someone who maybe in the past had anxiety, as I do. And when you're people who've had anxiety, you don't need to make suffering where there doesn't need to be suffering. And I think there's a really beautiful conversation that anyone who resonates with all of that would really love to hear. And we also talk about her experience around branding with me and the expansion and the up level and the step up that is quite scary sometimes when you do rebrand, which is completely normal and we all feel it. Well, I think most of the time people feel it. I definitely felt it. And it's not something that you should back away from. It is a moment to lean in. So let's get into this episode. Talia, my dear, it's so lovely to have you here. I'd love for you to introduce yourself via sharing a few of your highest personal values and how you embody them.
Thank you so much for having me, Clara. My three highest personal values are integrity, depth, and compassion. Integrity for me is about staying aligned with my truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Especially in practice, it looks like really being intentional with my words, being super clear with my boundaries, and saying no to things that don't align with me, whether it's like my personal life or whether it's in my work. I really try to live from honesty and integrity rather than performing. And sometimes that means referring my clients on to another practitioner or just prioritizing rest and protecting my energy when my body like says that I need it. So really listening to my integrity and my truth. So second is depth. I'm not a surface level person in whether that's in like my relationships or my work or my own healing. I really value depth. I value slowness, introspection, and creating space for really deep, real connection. In clinic, it looks like making space for people's emotions, really going deep into the case analysis and really focusing on the person as a whole person rather than just doing these quick fixes in my own life. It's not about rushing and rushing my growth, but it's really about carving time out for stillness, creativity, reflection, things like that. And the third is compassion. So I really try to meet people exactly where they are and without any judgment and without rushing to try and fix them or solve their issues. I really hold space for them where they are, and I hold space for them to fully express what they're feeling. And I'm learning to extend that same kind of compassion and gentleness for myself too as a practitioner and learning to kind of have that boundary. So that means letting go of perfectionism and validating people's experiences and really creating an emotionally safe container for my sessions, whether that's for my client or myself as well. So, yeah, my values are integrity, depth, compassion, and they really guide how I live and work, and they keep me grounded in a way that feels true to myself and is really sustainable.
I love them. I've done a few podcast episodes today, and I just love the kind of people that I attract because there's a lot of similarity in the values and integrity. It's the second time integrity's come up today. And I mean, integrity isn't one of my highest values, but it's just a given to me, it's so important. And I'd love to just chat about a couple of little pieces that you shared, especially that making the space emotionally safe for yourself as well. And I think that's really been lost. A lot of practitioners and even coaches, that kind of goes out the window completely in this modern era where everyone's so aware of their trauma and their history and the things that have happened to them. But how do you create an emotionally safe space for yourself as a practitioner?
It comes down to all of the practices that I do to prepare myself and to also, once I've finished dealing with clients, to kind of finish the session and clear and support my energy as well. So it means I really have to be in tune with my energy and doing practices like EFT tapping, I really love, or meditations, or really listening to my body, moving my body, running, walking, doing things that nourish me and nourish my energy on that kind of aspect, but also tuning back into having that energetic boundary and that ability that if things are outside of my scope of practice, I need to pass that on. That's not my responsibility to have to deal with that for the client, because at the end of the day, that is an ethical thing. And even if I have, this compassion that I want to do all that I can for them, it's out of my scope and it could actually cause them more harm and myself more harm. So having that energetic boundary is so important for me. And yet those practices like meditation and EFT tapping is really important. That they're what really I've been working on recently. That's really been kind of keeping that boundary quite strong.
Yeah, I love all of them. And one that I really love is finishing the workday at like 2 or 3 or something. And I drive to the gym, which is about 12 minutes drive away. and then getting in the car and driving to the gym and then doing a strength workout feels like I'm flushing all the energy off. I just absolutely love it. But all of those are amazing. You brought up a piece that I wanted to go into as well, that honoring of scope. Firstly, I think, I don't know why, but scope has disappeared and there's so much scope creep with all industries pretty much. And I agree. I think it is actually more compassionate to honor the scope, because maybe in the moment, if we think about my business, if someone comes to me with something like really intense psychological they need support with, me maybe saying something in the moment might be compassionate, but in the long run, I don't know what that could do, and I don't know what they actually need or who they need that from. So it's kind of that interesting interplay. But have you noticed scope creep in naturopathy?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And especially with social media and that kind of access too. Social media is amazing and great, and you can really connect with your ideal client and different people, but it is really a dangerous way of scope kind of creeping up on you. So, whether it is in consultations and, certain situations come up where it's outside of my scope of practice, I find it's often easier for me to have that boundary and pass that on to someone else. I can still support them through naturopathy within my scope, but if I can't support them in those ways that are outside of my scope, so I need to pass that on. But in social media, when you've got people messaging you and wanting advice on different things, that's the part that I find really difficult, actually. So it's trying to find that boundary in terms of social media as well, in terms of scope.
Yeah, we might do some live coaching here and tell you that you need to set up some automatic responses in your DM.
I think I do.
Yeah, and you can just set them up. So you can write like 4 or 5 different ones in Instagram, and you can start writing a particular word that you use as the trigger, and it will populate the whole DM. So there might be like 5 or 4 different types of requests you get. Write a little canned response for each, and then you just take that emotion out of how do I respond to this thing.
Oh, amazing. This is why I love you, Clara.
Yeah, that's this afternoon. You can do it in the back end of the Instagram app, I'm pretty sure. Really handy, especially if you're getting a lot of unsolicited requests for advice in the DMs. That can be really helpful just to have that strong boundary. And I wanted to touch on as well, which I think we'll get into when we start talking about the way that you do naturopathy. But you mentioned like not rushing to fix people. And that's, I think we talked about it, I talk about it with most of my naturopath clients. I've had chronic health issues, and to be honest, now I'm kind of looking back and going, oh, I think they were all just perimenopause. But I didn't realize that it could all be under the one umbrella. So I'd seen lots of doctors and lots of naturopaths and all sorts of nutritionists, all sorts of things, acupuncturists, and every single time they would get me, and it was like I'd feel like I was in a petri dish, and they would be excited and therefore rushing to like, oh, it's definitely this. It's definitely this. It's going to be this. But they all said something different and they were all had complete conviction. And it's awful to be on the receiving end of, because you don't even feel like they've listened to the end of your sentence.
Oh, definitely. And I've had my own health struggles in the past, and I've been on the other end of that too. So I have my own experience and I know what that's like. And it's horrible to almost feel like you're not being listened to or heard. So I have my own experience, and that's why it is so important for me to hold this non-judgmental space where it's about creating a steady space where people can explore their health at their own pace. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything about naturopathy. This is what's so exciting to me. I can continue to learn and grow from my experiences and what I learn from my clients and my other kind of colleagues. So for me to go and tell someone that I can expect fix them and do this and do that, it doesn't align with me, and it doesn't make any sense in terms of my way of working with the client. So I really kind of leave it up to the client, and I feel like that's what creates this like really beautiful space and this kind of healing when you do give it time and you let the healing kind of unfold gradually. I feel like it's really important.
Yeah, and I know for myself and probably a lot of people, and maybe more sensitive people, it takes me quite a while to warm up to a practitioner. If you jump in on the first session and you're like, it's this, it's this, it's this, I probably won't come back.
I'm the same. And from me, looking at it from an energetic perspective or a traditional perspective in terms of naturopathy, everyone has a different type of constitution. So if you've got a stronger, robust constitution, sure, we can whack those, really strong, stimulating, quick acting herbs at you, and you might be able to handle them quite well. But me, I have quite a sensitive constitution. So if you chuck heaps of stimulating, high therapeutic things at me, my body is going to start to freak out. So I think it's working with where the patient or the client is at and tuning into their body and how responsive they're going to be to different things. And sometimes, most of the time, with the clients that I see, it is that more sensitive kind of constitution. That means we have to work like slow, low and slow is what I say, and build it up. And that's not a bad thing. Personally, I love doing things at a low and slow pace because it really means we're taking time to work at things and really get. I feel like sometimes we see people and they're just chucking all of these big therapeutic doses at people, but not everyone's going to handle that. So if we can do it low and slow, we're going to make long-lasting, sustainable change with the client.
Yeah, and it's like, there's so much overstimulation and there's also so much instant gratification in the world right now that I'm speaking for myself as a sensitive person, just being alive is destabilizing right now. So going to the naturopath and being disabled in a space where you're meant to be feeling healing is kind of the opposite. But on this same point, I'm going to ask you a question that I haven't told you I'm going to ask you. I've just thought of it then, and you may or may not have an opinion on it. Because today, as we're talking, you're almost finished your naturopathy degree, and by the time this is released, you're a qualified naturopath. But because I work with so many naturopaths, one of the most common things I see that sabotages their business is they go ham on the treatment plans in a way that almost no person could actually achieve all those changes, and it's just wildly overwhelming. They also burn themselves out with the amount of time they're spending on these treatment plans, and then it affects client retention and it also affects client results because they can't ever do as much as is on that plan. Have you got any thoughts about like how many changes you're going to put in your plans and how big they're going to be, given that you're doing things in a bit of a different, non-rushing way?
Yeah, so I actually do this already in student clinic and in my practice in the future. This is how I'm going to do it. But I have been to naturopaths, I've been to practitioners where they chuck all of these things at you, and it's so overwhelming, and you don't know what's working, and you don't know whether you're reacting to this, that, and the other, that you kind of go away feeling even more overwhelmed and stressed from it all when you're meant to be supporting yourself with these plans. My honest kind of treatment plan is we want to establish the foundations for health, and the supplements and the herbs and flower essences and different things, to me, they're just beautiful additions that we can do to support your healing journey. So if we can, start low and slow by establishing if you've got a good sleep routine. Do you have regular exercise that you're doing? Are you having a balanced, diverse diet? Are you drinking water every day? Are you hydrating? All of these things that kind of get overlooked by people or overlooked by certain practitioners that are so integral and so important. If we can start low and slow with these certain things and nail these, you're going to create long lasting change. I'm not the type of practitioner that will be chucking tens of thousands of supplements and herbs that you probably will be surprised that I'm the complete opposite. So I'll be really honing in on the diet and the lifestyle and probably doing one or two herbs on top, if even.
Yeah, and I'm definitely one of those people who's guilty of taking heaps of things at once, not knowing which one's working. And I think that really the sensitive people that you're going to be, that you like to work with, I think if you do one thing or two things at a time, you can actually feel whether there is a difference. Whereas when you're doing too many things, You don't know what you felt like before, you can't remember, and you just probably feel overstimulated.
I agree. And there's an actual, I don't know exactly what it's called, whether it's a psychological kind of process but there's this thing called habit stacking, and it's got clinical research to back it up. But the body loves routine and the body loves rhythm. So if you add, I think they did the research on adding a different kind of thing to a morning routine every day. So say Monday, you woke up at 6 a.m. So that's the new routine. Tuesday, you woke up at 6 a.m., but this time you added a 5 minute meditation, and then you slowly added these things on compared to people who chucked it all at once. It created this sustainable, long lasting change. So that's what we're talking about. And that's what my practice is.
Yeah, I love it. And let's get into that a little bit more in depth. Can you talk about your particular style and flavor of naturopathy a little bit more?
Yeah, I am the founder of the Solace practice, and this is where I offer gentle naturopathic care for highly sensitive women. My work really focuses on helping women who feel out of balance. So they may feel overwhelmed or on the edge of burnout or struggling with their emotional health, or they're just not feeling like themselves. So a lot of my clients, they look for a more gentle, subtle, and individualized way of healing. So especially they've often had experiences with practitioners who felt too rigid, or they've tried to treat them like a puzzle needing to be fixed, or this one size fits all treatment protocol plan. But my particular flavor, it's a very much an energetic and nervous system first approach. So I don't just look at the client's symptoms or their pathology. I look at how stress, emotions, their energetics and their constitution, it might how that might be at the root or causing what's really going on for them. So it's a really gentle space, a non-judgmental space. And yeah, I'm not wanting to rush them towards fixing them. It's more about laying the cards out and creating this space where we can do slow and steady process. And it gives them the opportunity to explore their health at their own kind of pace.
Love that. And the way that when you talk about it, and I think about all the different options that are out there for getting health support, it sounds like a much more curated and elevated way of doing it. Do you feel that way?
I do. I do. I find it to be such a creative expression for me. I love creating these plans, and we've got all of this amazing scientific clinical studies to back up our practice and our profession, and that is amazing. But we've also got thousands of years of traditional knowledge passed on from herbalists and everyone who's come before us. So being able to blend this, it's beautiful being able to blend the traditional with the new up and coming research. It is. I feel chic and I feel creative, and yeah, it's quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's very much like the cool girl who isn't someone who is perceived as rushing. It's how she does healing, I feel.
No, I agree. She's taking her time, she's staying in her lane, she's listening to herself and her body. She's not listening and letting what everyone else is telling her and affecting her. She's the cool girl.
Yeah, no noise. And you've mentioned a couple of things already. I've talked about a few different pieces, but is there anything else you'd like to highlight as how it's different from more common forms of naturopathy? One piece that I would like you to highlight is that energetic and emotional piece.
Yeah. So this energetic and emotional piece, I feel like it's quite a lost thing for some people. I think maybe because of the way that we live and the society that we live now, we're quite disconnected in some way to our emotional bodies and our energetic bodies. I feel like energetic and physical wellness are quite interlinked and people don't really realize. But I see so many people thinking that they're failing because they're exhausted and they're anxious and they're feeling out of balance and they don't know why, and they think they're broken or they need to keep pushing and pushing to be well. But I think it's often if they simply look at their bodies and their nervous system and their energetic kind of emotional part of themselves, they'll see that it is such a big component to wellness and to your health. So that's why I think it's so important. It's about listening and learning to listen to your body and the body's cues and softening and creating space for your body to be able to restore itself because it's so important. We can chuck all of these things at you, but if your body is in a state of stress or whatever, if you're in fight or flight, your body's not fully going to be able to heal. If you give yourself permission to slow down and rest and receive care and listen to that energetic part of you and your constitution, I feel like that's when real healing kind of starts to really unfold.
Yeah, getting out of that kind of instant gratification, more is more mode, and just tapping back into what feels a bit more natural.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's such an interesting thing, that instant gratification, just because of the society that we live in. And once you start to tune in with yourself and your energetic kind of body, you realize how that instant gratification, it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you at all. And once you start to implement these practices and slow down and listen to yourself, you really start to love it. And you start to love listening to your body and tuning more in because you do feel more balanced. You feel less anxious. You feel less stressed and you're able to meet yourself where you are rather than just pushing and working against something that's not working.
Yeah, and forcing things. I'd love to ask you one more question about this same topic, and then we'll get a bit more into business stuff. So, do you have like a particular message that you'd really like women to hear when it comes to their energetic and physical wellness?
If I could share one message, and this is what I say to most of my clients, most of my family, most of my friends, but you are not broken. You don't need to create this narrative in your head that you are broken, and you don't need to keep pushing harder to be well and healthy. Your body has the innate capacity to heal itself. And when you start to work with your body and respect your body and work with it, so much healing can unfold. Whereas if you're working against your body, like we said, and you're forcing these things that aren't working for you, it's not going to happen. So that's the main thing. You are not broken. You have the capacity to heal, you have the capacity to get healthy and get better. And I think that's one of the main things I'd like to say.
Yeah, and I think it's like quite that you're not broken, and maybe also like you're not a victim a little bit is a massive thing right now, just because everyone's diagnosing themselves. Everyone's always diagnosed themselves on the internet, but like it's almost a national sport now, like I go on TikTok and what new illness do I have today? And then we give ourselves these labels, and then those labels become restrictions and limitations. I see it all the time in my work of people like, I can't do that because X. When we do that, when we focus on the brokenness or the victim or the label, or whatever it is, we close ourselves off to other possibilities. And if you're closed off to the possibility of feeling better, you're probably not going to be able to get there from my perspective.
I 100% agree. I have this conversation like all of the time. And I think that interlinks well with energetic medicine because energetic medicine is all about being open. And with people like that, it's just the society that we live in. We love this labeling and having a sense of control when we've got those labels. There's so much more to you than a label. So I think it's really important to be open minded. And that's what I love about energetic medicine. It's all about being open and listening and being curious.
Yeah, it's like holding all these things loosely and with a spacious mindset. So let's chat a little bit about business. Now, I've got lots of questions I want to ask you. And we pretty recently did an aligned business intensive, and you also did branding pretty much towards the very end of that. How was that experience for you?
The aligned business intensive was honestly just such a valuable process. I reached out to you when I was in my third year of my naturopathy degree, and it really helped me set up where I want my business to go and the foundations. Finishing the end of my degree, I felt so solid. It also really helped me get clear on my values of myself, my business, the type of client that I want to serve, and how to bring my message across in a way that feels really authentic to me. Because, like I said earlier, integrity, truth, authenticity is so important. I feel like that's exactly what I needed. It was really pushing me and allowing me to step into this version of myself that I never have before. And it was really about guiding me back to being really aligned with my deeper vision of my business and who I wanted to be and where I wanted my business to be.
Yeah, and I'll just reflect back to you. I haven't said this to you before, but you know, in those intensives, which I'm not actually doing them anymore. I've got about 30 days left of this one, but I'm not doing them again because they are really intense. They are. But some people have said it's like the same amount of information as like a university degree in 8 weeks, you know, or 10 weeks. And one thing about you, Talia, was that you just took the tasks and you're like, yeah. And I was like, you're all right with all that? Like, you know, you feeling it? And you're like, nah. And like, you're studying, you're doing your exams, and like maybe you're overwhelmed a bit behind the scenes. But I think how you responded in coaching is a testament to your ethos when it comes to physical and energetic wellness, because even though it was a lot of work and a lot of work on top of your degree, you were self-resourced enough for it to, there was not an iota of stress. Like we didn't have any stressful conversations. We always started with a little giggle. And that's because you're so resourced, and probably because you're also grounded in your values of that integrity and that compassion and that kind of unrushed way of doing things. Whereas a lot of the time, that amount of work, people couldn't, it can fry them. And so I just back to you that how you responded in coaching is proof, like the proof is in the pudding of how you do things. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Clara. That really means a lot to me. Yeah, I just, all of the steps, all of the things that we did, it made so much sense. And every week we would unravel something else. And I would go, why haven't I been doing this? It was so amazing for me. And it made everything so much easier. And it made just, I'm not naturally a business minded person. So for me to have this, it was just so invaluable. And yeah, I loved it. I really loved it.
We know that you did the business intensive, you rebranded, you booked out in student clinic from that. Can you talk about why it is important to still work on your business even though you weren't qualified yet?
I think it's so important because I'm still consulting one on one with patients at the student clinic, and I was able to align myself with certain types of people that, based on my values and based on my business, that kind of came to me after we started working on these things. I think it's so important. And I think it's really important because it helps you build a strong foundation in your business. And it also helps you feel really confident within yourself and your business and your ability to show up as a practitioner. So yeah, I felt really confident. I felt really calm. And yeah, it felt really good.
Yeah, I would say naturopathy is the biggest industry where I talk to people and they say, I'll do it once I'm qualified. And they don't understand that's not a good idea. And that in business, we call it the build it and they will come fallacy, which basically means when you're ready for clients, they'll just miraculously appear. And it's like, no, you need to build a community and clientele and a bit of brand authority well before you're qualified. Have you got any thoughts on that piece of waiting till you're qualified?
I have to agree. I think I don't know if it's we're fed it somewhat in university or because the degree is such a massive degree, it's just what people say, to kind of get through. But this has been so invaluable because now I've got all of this set up, connecting with my ideal client, and I can basically step out now and go into the real world with my business already flowing and flourishing and functioning. And I can step up as the practitioner that I want to be and what my business needs me to be. Yeah, I think it's also just going back onto you need to put in the work. For those people that think that it's all going to come, it takes time. Like you said to me, you had how many businesses that you started up and it took you years and years and years for you to get to where you are. I think people sometimes forget that. It really takes time. You need to put in the effort, and having this set up, it's so amazing for me now to just go out into the world and just get into my business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it took me years because didn't exist, but TikTok exists now. And that would cut that time frame at least by half, if not more. But yeah, you need like a good minimum 6 months, if not 12, just for people to know who you are. Like no one, people don't realize no one knows who you are, let alone get them to know who you are and then get them to realize that you're a naturopath and that you're a naturopath who does these specific things for this specific group of people. It just takes time to build that brand authority.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Beautiful. So I want to chat a little bit about branding, and completely normal thing occurred, which happens with most people, happen with myself, is when you first saw your branding, you was just very slightly unsure because it was a little bit maybe in terms of visual communication. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I like to do branding a bit ahead of the trends rather than trendy. And then you realize that you would need to do it a little bit ahead to reach your target market, and also so you didn't have to rebrand in a few years because it was not trending anymore. How do you feel about your brand today?
So, yeah, at first I was a little bit unsure with the rebrand direction. I think because it was different to what I've seen other naturopaths do. And I think it was because I was like still holding on to playing small in my business. And then once I sat with it, as you said, just sit with it. And then I leaned into it and I could see that it was an elevation and it really aligned with the woman that I wanted to meet or my ideal client. It allowed me to meet the client at the level of where they're at. So I feel so aligned with my brand now and I see it completely differently. I feel like it represents not just what I do, but the energy and the space and the presence that I want to hold for people and my clients as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit edgy, a little bit different. And it's that thing of like, it's different to what you've seen. Like, that's the best thing possible, you know? And I sound like I'm like shit talking naturopathy. I really don't mean to. I just work with a lot of naturopaths and I have a lot of conversations. And I think there might be something that happens in naturopathy school where everyone's like trying to fit in. And sometimes then when you finish, you're still trying to fit in with that cohort rather than attract the right clientele. I've got a couple of naturopath branding clients coming up where I'm going to have to teach them that piece of we actually don't want you to fit in because then you're same and you'll get disregarded. Whereas if you can stand out a little bit, your business will grow quicker. Got any thoughts on that?
Oh, I 100% agree. And once I stepped into that, it just made so much sense. But I think it's just other naturopaths come up and you see their branding and you see how they come across and you see how great that they're doing. You get influenced by what's around you. And I guess that's a comment to whether it's naturopathy or anything in the outside world. So, yeah, I feel like once you step into your own lane, stop getting influenced by what's around you, and then you can step into that alignment of where you want your business to go. Don't let what everyone else is doing around you influence you and your business. I think that's the big thing that you taught me in this rebrand. And it made so much sense once I stepped into it and didn't stand in that place of, oh, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? It made so much sense.
And it's definitely really interesting and a hard thing to kind of communicate because I always say to people, if my business's brand was completely aligned with me and exactly how I want it to look, it would be like all Victorian era and brass and like navy blue, and it wouldn't be what it is. But it's not about it being for me, it's about it being for the kind of person I'm trying to attract, which is also like separating yourself from your business, but it's a hard thing to communicate when you're rebranding.
For sure. And I feel like it was hard for that first week or two when you sent me everything and I was sitting with it going, I've got to stop thinking from me. I've got to start thinking from my business and my client. And yeah, it was hard at first, but now I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, and I've personally found that it's really energetically delicious and beautiful because it gives you a degree of separation. If it was just like you just doing it how you like things to look, or like you saw something cute, so you replicate that, it then becomes a bit more entwined with your identity. And then, of course, it's like, well, if that post that you did doesn't do well, then you feel bad about yourself. Where if it's like, I have this brand, I have these templates, and I'm just going to use them, there's a bit of a buffer between you and what's going on in the business.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I love that. So last question, just because you're the first person I've had on the podcast who's actually done my everything done for you package, which is where I went in and I did all your social media templates, your bio site or your link in bio, and your website and your flow desk. Was that an easeful experience to step in and have all that stuff done for you?
Yes, that package was like a relief to me because I was studying this long degree that I loved, but I didn't have time to do all of these other things. And I'm also not a business-minded person, so I didn't know all of the things that you needed. And so having everything done for me allowed me to stay focused on the parts of my work that lit me up, which was the consulting and seeing patients rather than getting bogged down with all of these details and different little things that I needed to do that would have just taken me so much longer to figure out. But having you come in and do it all for me, it saved me such a huge amount of time and energy. And yeah, it made the process just so easy.
Yeah, I love that. And it's an energy drain, you trying to learn that stuff. It's just a gross waste of energy that should be going in doing your studies or seeing your clients or resting, not trying to learn stuff that you don't even need to know.
100%, because this is what I say. I didn't sign up for this naturopathy degree to be a designer or something. So if I can have someone like you to be able to do this, it just makes my whole life, my work so much easier.
And that's that ottering scope. We've come full circle. I know I just saw today you've released your gentle energy audit, but what's the best way for people to start working with you?
So, the best way to start working with me right now is through my one on one consultation. So, they can either be in person or online. And that's when we really deep dive into cases with people, like we mentioned earlier, at a slow pace, whenever they're ready. And we take time to kind of understand them from a whole perspective. And then I create individualized care plans for them. So, if you're just getting to know me and my work, you can also connect with me through my website, solacepractice.com.au, or also on Instagram and TikTok, where I share gentle, practical content around nervous system support, energetic medicine, and naturopathy and holistic healing. But yeah, if anyone wants a really simple starting point to connect with me, I've created a free resource called the Gentle Energy Audit, and it's a one-page reflection tool that helps you notice the small everyday things that either drain your energy or restore it. So you can start making these soft shifts and changes in your day-to-day life without feeling overwhelmed. And it helps you then to reconnect with your energy and your energetic boundaries and stuff like that. So they're the main things that you can do to connect with me.
I love it. What a beautiful free resource for people to get started with. And if you're listening and you resonate as a chic and elevated, non-rushed, non-bothered woman who wants to step into this new era of healing, get in touch with Tahlia.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you so much for having me.
If you can't tell, getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast for a review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.